Hi, Shalom Chaverim. We have many terms to show our appreciation to the human mind. Sometimes you say, oh, this gentleman, very clever. Sometimes you say, oh, this woman, highly intelligent, really intelligent. And some people have a very high IQ. And some people are very smart. But I think the highest term that we would give to a person who we appreciate in terms of mind is someone who is wise. Consulting with a wise person is not the same thing as consulting with someone who has intelligence or someone who has knowledge. Wisdom is in a class of its own. Now, what we know of wisdom is really a pale reflection of the wisdom of Solomon. In the book of Kings, it says that God blessed Solomon with immense wisdom and understanding, and he was wiser than all of the wise people of the East. So we could talk about the wisdom of Solomon, but I'd like to share with you a legend / story about Solomon's wisdom when he was very, very young, and perhaps we could derive a lesson from it. The story goes that in northern Israel, in one of the larger towns, the citizens of the towns decided that they would honor the two leading citizens. So we'll call them Reuben and Shimon are invited to a dinner that will be held on their, to honor them. And the entire town showed up, and they're sitting by the tables, and there's a little raised platform where Reuben and Shimon are sitting, the guests of honor. And as everyone is eating, the first course was served, and for some reason or other, Reuven's first course was missing some vegetables. So it was sort of an entree where there was an egg and some vegetables, and Reuven was only given the egg without the vegetables. Reuven, I guess, was not politically savvy, and he saw the egg and he was hungry, so he ate the egg. And then realized when he finished eating the egg that everyone else in the crowd was eating, and Shimon, his co-honoree, was pecking so delicately at the vegetables. So Reuven suddenly felt very, very embarrassed. And he whispers to Shimon, he says, Shimon, please, can you do me a favor? I feel very awkward. I'm not eating. If people that are sitting will notice me not eating, they might complain to the host. The host will say, sure, I served him. And then people will say, oh, this guy's a glutton. He eats so quickly. So do me a favor, eat your vegetables a little bit longer and give me your egg. And Shimon says to him unkindly, well, who asked you to be such a glutton? And he says, Shimon, now is not the time to talk about my eating habits. I really feel awkward. I feel as if people are looking at me, and here I am with a plate, and I'm not eating. Can you please give me an egg? So Shimon says, well, I suppose the egg is valuable to you right now. He says, yeah, it actually is. Well, do you swear to me you'll pay me the value of an egg? Yes, I swear. Can I please? Sure, by all means. Enjoy it. And Reuben takes the egg and peels it and slowly eats and waits for the next course to be served. Well, it was an awkward moment, which he thought he handled not bad. But 2 weeks later, Shimon presents Reuben with a bill. You owe me 100 shekels. And there's a paper attached. I have calculated the value of an egg. This egg could have hatched into a chick. It could have later on laid eggs or been used to incubate eggs. And according to my calculations, this egg that you consumed was incredibly valuable in terms of long prognosis for what it could have been used. And therefore, you owe me 100 shekels. Of course, Reuben was taken aback. This is chutzpah. I mean, come on. An egg is not worth 100 shekels. But he looked over the papers, and in terms of mathematics, this egg could have produced X amount of other eggs. So he goes over to Shimon and he says, look, I'm not arguing the paperwork, but it's not justice. And he says, you swore to me that you would pay the value of an egg. I asked you if an egg is valuable. You said yes. This is what I want and not a penny less. Well, Reuben realized that he has been had, said to Shimon, he says, look, I'll pay you. But we both have to go to Jerusalem in a couple of weeks for business. In Jerusalem, there's a high court, which is under the supervision of King David. Let's present our claims to that court. And if they say that I should pay, I will. Right? Shimon said, fine. There's no rush. A couple of weeks later, they traveled. They're both civil to each other. And when they come to the city of Jerusalem, they go to the court of King David. And essentially, Shimon presents and says, learned judges, this man Reuben promised me the value of an egg. And they say, is that true? Yes, it is true. I swore. Well, I have calculated the value of an egg. This is my paperwork. Is there anything faulty? And they look over the paperwork and they say, actually, we don't usually think of an egg in that way, but yes, this has absolutely value. Look at whatever could have produced. She said, then you will agree with the conclusion that he owes me 100 shekels. And they look at him, are you jesting? No, I'm not jesting. And they confer with one another, and they say, it is not just. You're taking advantage of a man, but if he swore to pay the value of an egg, then on a technical sense, he owes you that money. So Shimon turns to Reuben, you see, I told you I was right. And Reuben walks out, very, very upset, muttering underneath his breath, could it be in the holy city of Jerusalem there is no justice? And as he walks out, he meets one of the young children of King David, the prince. And his name was Solomon, Shlomo. And Shlomo, even when he was very young, was incredibly precocious and often hung around the court to find out what people are discussing and what are the conclusions. Almost always, when people would leave, they would leave uplifted, feeling that their claims were heard and dealt with respectfully and honestly and ethically, and they would leave in a good frame of mind. But when Shlomo saw Reuben walking out, very downcast, he stopped him and he said, my good man, why are you so upset? And he says, little boy, I don't know who you are, but I am upset because I expected that in the court of King David I would get some justice. The little boy says, what? The great rabbis and judges did not give you justice? They're all impeccably honest. They might be honest, but they're wrong. And Solomon says, would you care to share it with me? And he looks at this boy, and something tells him, say it. So he told over the story. When he told over the story, King Solomon said, I have good advice for you. King David, my father, goes daily for a ride. And he leaves Jerusalem, and he likes to travel through the roads that divide one farm from another, because it gives him a sense of the people. They wave to him. Occasionally he stops and talks, and it reminds him of the days when he was a shepherd. So outside of Jerusalem, some 150 yards away, is a type of a farm. Stand in front of the road with a large pot and take some cooked peas and start throwing it on the floor. So he looks at the young boy and he says, and what will that do? He says, well, certainly my father will stop and ask, why are you taking cooked peas and throwing it on the floor? And your response will be, once I heard that in the court of King David, a hard-boiled egg can produce chickens, I figured that cooked peas can produce fresh vegetables. Of course, he smiled. Such an obvious concept. How come the judges didn't ask whether it was hard-boiled or not? Of course, that's what happened the next day. The King David went for a stroll and met the person, questioned him, why are you doing something so outlandish? And when he responded, King David, of course, rectified the wrong, and the value of the egg, which is a hard egg, is very different than the potential of an egg in theory. It's a wonderful story. Is there a lesson that we could derive from it? And I believe there is. And I'll share with you it very briefly. Many of us look at opportunities as potentials. So let's say, for example, I finished work a little bit earlier, or for some reason my interview ended early, and I have 5 or 6 minutes. I say to myself, "Oh, this is wonderful! I have an extra 5 minutes. Now would be ideal to take out something and study Torah." And then I say, "No, what's 5 minutes? You know what? Why don't you wait? When you get home, you'll have an hour. You'll be able to study for a whole hour. So why not? You don't have to waste 5 minutes studying Torah when you could invest 60 minutes studying Torah." Or perhaps you have a couple of dollars in your pocket and you pass a charity box, and your first thought is, why not put in a couple of bucks? And then you say, "Oh, come on, what's a couple of dollars?" You could go home later and write out a larger check. And so on and so forth. There are always these moments which we could grab, but instead we don't grab them at all, and we look at it in terms of what it could lead to or what might happen. The reality is, and sometimes it's quite sad, we never get that extra hour. We never have that extra moment that we need. The opportunity was lost. So, my friends, don't be a person who looks at a hard-boiled egg, which will not produce anything other than a hard-boiled egg, and say, "Oh, you know what? From this can come A, B, C, D, and the entire alphabet." Instead, appreciate the moment. Appreciate the time for what it is. It's doable, it's edible, it can be utilized properly, and by all means, indulge in that moment. If we were to use our time appropriately and actually use the opportunities that are presented to us without a shadow of a doubt, we would all improve in every respect. Shalom and good luck in our mission.